Hey friends, welcome back to the Guitar Max channel, and it is official. Fender is raising their prices due to the tariffs. Now, obviously, a lot of companies have raised prices more or less because of the new tariff changes that have been going on in the government over the past several months. So why am I picking on Fender specifically? Well, the reason is that several months ago I did a video about the new then tariff changes and how I thought Fender was going to be less affected by the tariffs because in my mind so many of the Fender products were manufactured in Mexico, and Mexico had reciprocal tariffs which supposedly were going to be less than places like China, India, and so forth. But as much as I hate to admit this, we have some new information now, and apparently I was wrong. Not only was I wrong, but I was wrong in a big way. So I've got a couple of really interesting articles and some information to share with you guys in this video. We're going to go over all the details, why this is happening, why Fender is so affected compared to other companies. And it's really, really pretty fascinating and eye-opening. Now, of course, guys, real quick, if you enjoy videos like this, staying up on all the latest news in the guitar universe and you've not already subscribed, please consider subscribing right now. Okay, so this first article I have up here is from guitar.com, and I want to read a little bit into this, and then about halfway through, I'll get to the part about why I got this so wrong before. But let's just look at the headline here, and I've got my fake glasses for some of this economic corporate jargon here that we're going to have to sit through, unfortunately. But anyway, here's the headline. Fender increased prices to offset higher costs from tariffs. Report reveals how Fender is tackling tariffs and a weaker macroeconomic environment. Okay, so this is guitar.com, and let's scroll down here. And the article starts off here. President Donald Trump enacted hefty tariffs on the import of goods into the United States from countries around the world earlier this year, and they're continuing to have a heavy impact on guitar manufacturers, including Fender. Instrument and gear brands have been continually speaking out about the impact of high tariffs on the guitar trade. Fender's Executive Vice President of Product, Justin Norvell, even traveled to Washington, D.C. earlier this year in an attempt to mitigate the devastating impact of the global tariffs, alongside industry figures including NAMM's John Malinzik and Gibson's Aaron Salmon. Okay, now as we go on here, this is the real meat of it right here. It says, according to a new report from financial information and analytics expert S&P Global, Fender increased prices throughout the first half of the year to offset higher costs from tariffs, especially China, which makes up 40% of purchases. To be clear, that is 40% of the products that customers purchase from Fender are made in China and are affected by the tariffs that have been placed on China. 40%, 40, not 14, 40. That's a huge number, okay? And obviously you think of Fender and you think, oh, Nashville, Tennessee, and it's an American brand. It's a legendary American brand. Well, why are 40% of the stuff people are buying from Fender? Why is it that much stuff, okay? Well, here's a hilarious thing. I was thinking originally, months ago, I was thinking like, well, a lot of the import guitars, the import models, the Fender Standard and so forth, the Player series, these are made in Mexico, right? So, yeah, some things are made in China, but not that much. No. Okay, this is hilarious because I am an electric guitar player. I completely forgot about acoustic guitars. All of the traditional Fender acoustic guitars are made in China. And even the expensive ones, like if we go over here, check this out. This is right from the Fender website. The California Vintage King goes for $950, almost $1,000. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a bad guitar. It's a great guitar. A lot of people like this. But this is a Chinese-made guitar. And, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe all of, if not the vast majority of, the acoustic guitars that Fender sells, Fender-branded acoustic guitars, are made in China. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. And as a guitar player that 99% of my playing is electric guitars, I completely forgot about acoustic guitars, which is rather silly of me, but I still did it. Now, the other thing is amplifiers, right? Because we're talking about Fender products, okay? We're not talking about guitars specifically. So this includes like picks and cables and all that stuff, right? So amplifiers is a huge part of it. I've got my Fender GTX 100. Obviously, it's a digital solid-state amplifier. It's like a $550 amplifier. It's kind of their flagship of their digital amps, right? It's made in China. Most of the amplifiers, most of the common amplifiers that people buy are made in China, and a lot of them, the tube stuff is made in Mexico. But again, it's like how many people are buying an entry-level product versus how many people are buying like a high-end flagship product. Well, there's, percentage-wise, there's way more people buying the entry-level stuff or even the mid-level stuff, and most of that is made in China. And the other big part of this is even the guitars, even the products that Fender makes that are not manufactured in China, even the stuff manufactured in Mexico or right here in the good old United States of America, the components, right? Some of the components are going to be made in China, even if we're just talking about wire or the coating on the wire, things like that. There's all kinds of little detail items, I guess you could say, that end up being made in China. In some cases, the only place they can get them is China. So I'm not faulting Fender for any of this. I'm not saying this is necessarily bad. I'm just saying I really didn't think about it this way back when I was originally making that other video. It has had a much bigger impact than I was originally realizing. So let's read on this article here, and then there's some more stuff we need to talk about. But the article goes on here. The report further claims that the Big F implemented a 5% price increase in July across its entire portfolio to tough out the financial challenges of the enacted tariffs. But also, it acknowledges the impact of a weaker economy on the business and explains how sell-in habits, the sales from manufacturers and dealers, affect the brand. The report states, sell-in has exceeded our expectations for retail partners like Guitar Center, Sweetwater, and Amazon as higher-income consumers continue to value the Fender brand. Okay, so they're saying that from the perspective of the dealers and the distributors, those places are still buying the same amount of product from Fender, but they're not necessarily able to sell it to the customer, which is really interesting. It goes on here. Despite this, it also notes, and I'm going to put on my economic glasses here. Nonetheless, volumes continue to decline due to lower consumer discretionary spending, which we expect will continue throughout the remainder of the year. For example, smaller, locally owned U.S. dealers continue to tightly manage inventory amid a weaker macroeconomic environment as consumers trade down to the second-hand market or defer discretionary spending. Okay, so what that all means is that the end consumer, the guitar player that buys the guitar and ends up playing it, right? The end of the line there, the economy is bad, and those people don't have as much money to spend on guitars, and they are thinking about, should I buy food this month or should I buy a new guitar? And more often than not, they're not choosing the guitar. That's what they're saying there. Now, it goes on here. S&P Global also claims that Fender is having some success in regards to its entry-level trade. It believes that Fender is gaining market share in low-end guitars due to competitor brands, allegedly reducing imports of low-end guitars from China due to tariff headwinds. So what that means is that the brands where more than 40% of their stuff comes from China, let's say everything they make is made in China, those brands are doing worse than Fender, and they have had to increase their prices more than Fender has. And because of that, at least with the entry-level stuff, customers are more likely to choose the Fender products instead of those other ones. And that's very interesting. Now, We're just getting to the end of this year. It says, in summary, S&P states, in 2026, we expect improving volume trends from new innovations, though we continue to expect subdued customer sentiment resulting in minimal revenue growth. We expect dealers will remain cautious on increasing inventory levels because of a weak macroeconomic backdrop with lower discretionary spending on big-ticket items like guitars. And that's just a very fancy way of saying that it's probably not going to get better next year. Okay, now there's a couple other things that I want to throw in here that's kind of related to this. We are seeing some very big, long-established guitar, or I should say musical instrument retailers, distributors, and so forth, and even specific guitar brands kind of going by the wayside. And this has been in the news over the past 2 or 3 months. But a couple of big ones recently is the company or the brand that owns vintage guitars. Okay, the name, I've always had beef with the name. Vintage is the name of the guitar brand, not a vintage guitar. Anyway, that brand, which has been around for a very long time, the parent company that owns that is looking to sell off their assets and sell off their brands, basically kind of going out of business, but at the same time hoping that some other company will take on the brand. The other big thing is you probably know that recently Nuno Bettencourt has left Washburn, and a lot of people are looking around at Washburn and like, man, is that company still even really doing anything? This is the kind of situation where if a company was already kind of teetering on the edge back in, let's say, 2018, 2019, and then bam, they got hit with all the COVID craziness, and now with all of the not only the economic downturn, but all of the tariff changes, if the company was teetering on the edge before, it's just too much to deal with. And I think we are starting to see those companies now fall off the cliff and disappear. Okay, but look, to me, the big thing with this article I went over, 40% of all the stuff that Fender sells is manufactured in China. That blew my mind. It was much higher than I realized. I thought it was going to be, I don't know, 15, 20 maybe. And that's even if you were including the Squier stuff. Although a lot of the Squier stuff is made in India. It's not necessarily made in China. Anyway, but what do you guys think about that? Does that number surprise you, 40%? Or does it not surprise you? Maybe I was just clueless about this because I totally forgot about the acoustic guitars. Anyway, guys, let me know down in the comments section below. What do you think about this, and where do you see it going in the future? Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, thumbs up, subscribe for more. I will put links for everything I was talking about in the video description below, and I'll see you in the next video.